to another episode of Handbuilt Studios. I'm Brennan. Today we are going to talk about this guitar, the Kramer Focus VT-211S. It is a gloss purple, a maple on maple neck, C-shaped neck, 25.5 inch from the nut to the bridge. It has 21 frets. Has cheap Chinese made tuners and made in China, of course. The body is made out of mahogany. The hardware is like a Strat style tremolo bridge setup. You have your volume and two tone knobs, a 5-way select switch, and yeah, as far as I can tell, when I received this guitar through Sweetwater, it was in very good condition. And surprise, you guys rock. Do an awesome job of making sure that the guitar is not going to be trashy. As far as I can tell, people have been complaining when they got some of these. Some of them had fret sprouts on the edges, and I've been playing on this. You've seen a couple of my videos, and I'm not getting any kind of fret sprout at all. Oh, another thing, it does have like a plastic nut on it, I believe. Anyway, it's just an excellent guitar. I don't have anything to complain about. Maybe, you know, the strings are still stock on this when I received it. They work fine, but I am getting new strings in the mail. I'm going to get rid of these and put my own strings. I'm going to put a set of DR strings, like medium light, as usual, how I like to set my other guitars up. So yeah, this is a pretty cool epic guitar, and I kind of want to go over, since I've been looking at Kramer's for a long time. I just wonder what it would be like to play a Kramer, and also wonder where the heck these guys come from. Well, I kind of written down some of the stuff that I've looked up on the internet, and also several other people too. So how they came to be is the company was founded in the late 70s by Dennis Berardi and Gary Kramer, a close friend and associate of Travis Bean, to manufacture aluminum-necked guitars. Gary Kramer, Dennis Berardi, Peter LaPlaca, I'm probably butchering this, and CA Vice President at Norland. Okay, so a group of guys came together. Before I go further, there's a group of guys. There's two in particular, Gary Kramer and I think Dennis Berardi. They, at the time, before they was doing guitars, they were fixing and repairing like junk vehicles, I guess, back in the day, from what I've got. And I guess one day they saw that, you know, I guess Fender and Gibson were having trouble at the day, and so, or something. And they looked at some of the guitars and I was like, you know, why can't we do that? So they had this idea of wanting to make guitars, and they, you know, was thinking about a unique way of coming up with a cool guitar. So the idea that they had, since they worked with automotive all the time, and I'm pretty sure they had tools to work on metal and stuff, they had the idea of making work first working aluminum neck guitars. So anyway, Gary, Kramer, Dennis Berardi, Peter LaPlaca, CA Vice President at Norland, parent company of Gibson in 1974, and investor Henry Vaccaro joined forces to open a plant in Neptune, New Jersey. Soon thereafter, Gary Kramer moved to Los Angeles, and his connection with the company would become in name only before the wooden necks era that began in the 80s. Yeah, long before. So it was like not until since they were making guitars, several prototypes, they took it to one of the NAMM shows, and they weren't very big at the time, from what I gathered. And they had a booth there, and they had a couple guitars there. At the time, they basically made it was like a full-on aluminum neck guitar with like a pitchfork headstock that was also made of all aluminum. And whenever it was presented to the public, people were so fascinated by it. And it was just, to them, I guess it was cool at the time. So there was quite a few people that were very interested in that. Although they ran into some issues whenever they made the neck for it. It was too cold to hold it. It was just, I don't know if it would be, it would be uncomfortable, but the neck on it was so cold when it got cold outside. And so they had to fix the issue. Instead of having a full-on neck, they had like a strip running up in the middle of the neck instead, whenever they were making their aluminum neck guitars back in the day. So their first trademarks were pitchfork, the pitchfork headstocks, aluminum reinforced necks, and whenever they cut down on aluminum where it was aluminum on wood, they used walnut and or maple. And also they used another product on it that was way different. Instead of a fretboard being like a maple or like rosewood or ebony, they used like this stuff called ebonol, which is equivalent to one of the really old black foam, that really super hard plastic, or like a bowling ball like type of plastic. Anyway, they put that on the guitar fretboard and they made it work. And at the time, they also used Schaller tuning keys and bridges, Schaller and DiMarzio pickups, and they also used exotic words and hybrid wood, aluminum neck. Excuse me, I'm reading too fast. So they were using, bits and pieces of wood. They were trying to make, the first actual working aluminum neck guitar. Well, yeah, operate a guitar neck that was operational. So, aluminum neck, let's see, the aluminum necks were made, it was 1976 until 1982. It was at the time where they went with like full-on wooden necks. And then the bodies were made from fancy woods such as curly or bird's eye, maple, walnut, and koa. That was their standard wood bodies that they have at the time. the transition from aluminum wood was in effect until 1981. I think I pretty much said that. And then they started introducing the rocking Air Tremolos. They were standard in all Kramer guitars in 1981 at that time. So just right after they did away with the aluminum neck guitars, they added on the rocking Air, which there was a guy, I can't ever remember his first name, but his last name was Rockinger, and he was a German inventor that made like a operating tremolo bridge. So Kramer used that for a good while, and then in 1983 they are now installed with Floyd Rose tremolo system, which is way better. I think is actually an upgrade. And also, at that same year, whenever they switched from the rocking Air to Floyd Rose, they had a different headstock, which is a classic banana headstock. In 1985, Seymour Duncans were being installed and become the best seller. Seymour Duncans, they're really awesome. Although I don't actually own Seymour Duncans as of yet, but I love the Duncan designs on the Jackson. So it's kind of like a little taste of a Duncan, sort of. But they're designed by Jackson. So I really like that. And also, the same year, whenever they were introducing, whenever they were putting Seymour Duncans in, it became one of the best sellers of any guitar. And they actually became like the best seller ever, really. It eventually, over the years, it outsold Gibson and Fender, became the #1 guitar in the U.S. nation. So, really. And also, a year later, they actually decided to go with an even more pointier headstock on their banana style headstock. I know I said it twice like an idiot, but we're going to go with it. So they were having all kinds of success and fame, and big band artists, big name bands like Eddie Van Halen, Billy Idol, Bon Jovi, and Kiss were using them. And then, I guess, fast forward a little bit more, shortly after, in 1991, Kramer Company effectively came to an end. But by 1995, Henry Vaccaro was the only one of the original partners, was one of the original partners in interest in continuing the guitar business one last time, but only a few hundred were ever made. Therefore, Kramer is now officially sold out of bankruptcy. And also, in 2007, I guess it was made known that Gibson Guitar Corporation had bought them, and the idea of Kramer was kind of put on the shelf for a while until 2020, and they've been selling ever since. And to actually experience, Kramer, especially with like a very low budget Kramer, I think is just awesome. And I'm glad that Gibson went with the idea of keeping it like a budget-friendly brand instead of, they could have made Kramer into one of the, the big name, the super big name brands, like you have to give like an arm and a leg for. But anyway, I don't got anything bad to say about this guitar. except for like the fact that whenever I go to use the tremolo, which is kind of expected when you don't get when when you're not given much money, is when I dive down, the high string, the low E gets out of whack. It actually would be a pitch higher when I do that. So whenever I put new strings on, hopefully I'll have a video on how to actually tie strings when you have a tremolo system like that, and it would return to pitch just about every time. But I know that this is a budget guitar, and it does get a little scratches on the pick guard, but that's to be expected. And really, I don't. I'm actually quite comfortable with this, and it's just it familiarized me from whenever I had my very first guitar, which was a Bridgecraft. It was also a Fender Strat copy, and I never want to go back to it because the frets were worn to hell, and that's all I gotta say about it. But let me know what you think on the comments down below of what your first guitar was, and also you own one of these and how you like it. Was there any kind of issue that you had, maybe fret sprout, or it wasn't leveled right, or like just anything really? Please do leave a comment below, and I'll see you next time.